Most people think breaking your resolution is a discipline problem. It's not. Every time you break a promise to yourself, your self-trust leaks. When the week gets messy, take it as the exact moment the training begins. Most people think missing workouts is a discipline problem. It's not. Here's what actually happened. You made a New Year's resolution. You're going to train 3 times a week. You decide you'll work out Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Then Tuesday blows up. You sleep badly, work runs late. Now it's Thursday and the plan has fallen apart. Your plan just didn't survive a real week, and that's a capability problem. The ability to keep your promise when the week changes. In the last video, I broke down the main ways people try to keep a resolution. More inspiration, more willpower, more accountability, or a better routine. And the point was simple. Each of those helps, but on its own, it usually breaks. What actually works is being able to do the 3 things at once. Stay connected to why it matters, work with the week and energy you actually have, and adjust your plan so the promise still holds. That capability is what I mean by self-authorship. Now I want to make that practical, and I want to start by tightening what a resolution actually is. Not just a goal, but a promise with moving parts. Every resolution is a 3-force promise, and you need all 3 working together. Pull is the why, where you're going and why it matters. Push is what you can actually bring this week, your energy, your time, your capability. And bridge is the plan that still works in real life, what you do, when you do it, and how you keep it going. A resolution isn't just a nice idea, it's something you're responsible for carrying. And every time you break a promise to yourself, you pay for it, your self-trust leaks. So the real question isn't, what would I do on my best day? It's what survives my normal days and my bad ones. But here's what makes this hard. A resolution starts unrealized. There's always a gap between where you are and where you want to be. And the key question is, what's missing in that gap? 2 things. The first is obvious, the outcome itself, the future you're aiming for isn't real yet. The second one isn't as clear at first, but it's the real problem. It's that you probably can't trust your follow-through yet. For most people, it's not that you're missing information, you already know what to do. What's missing is the bit that carries you reliably from intention to action so that you can keep your promise to yourself. In IDOJO, we call that capability, the practical ability to bring about an outcome reliably, not just on a good day. Most people talk about it like it's a trait. I'm disciplined or I'm not. But it isn't a trait, it's trainable. Think of capability like this. It's a skill and a muscle. A skill because there's know-how to following through well. A muscle because it gets stronger when you use it, and it shrinks when you don't. So how do you actually build that muscle? Through what I call practice. Because you're not just doing the thing, you're training the ability to do it reliably. And I don't mean practicing in theory or perfect reps in a clean environment. I mean the actions you take in your life, in the week you actually have. A practice is repetition, like a habit, but it's deliberate. You're doing it on purpose to build capability. And every time you practice, you're doing 2 things at once. You're building capability and you're exercising it to produce the outcome. That's why in IDOJO we say practice pays twice. And that's also why a resolution isn't something you decide once and then execute. You don't just pick a goal and then follow the plan. Because the hardest part of a resolution is building the capability to keep your promise. And here's the liberating idea. If the gap is capability, then the gap is workable. Your current follow-through isn't a verdict, it's a baseline, and every rep you take is how you raise it. Which brings us to the moment that matters most, when the plan breaks. Because this is where most resolutions die. Not because you don't care, but because you don't have a way to adapt without collapsing. So here's the loop self-authorship runs. It's Thursday, the plan broke, you're annoyed at yourself. Before you spiral, you go back to why you started this, what you were sick of, what you were reaching for. That's pull. That gives the week its direction again. Then that familiar feeling shows up. I don't want to do this right now. Here's the key. That's a feeling, not a verdict. That's push. It doesn't get to decide what you do next. Let the discomfort be something that you're having, not something that's having you. Now you pause and ask, what needs to change so this will work? Maybe 3 sessions was too much this week. Maybe you do 2. Maybe 1 session is 20 minutes instead of an hour. That's bridge. You stretch yourself enough to grow, but not so much that you snap the promise. And here's why that matters. Even the scaled down version pays twice. You're building the capability to adapt and getting the outcome. Then you take the rep. You don't judge the week, you continue the promise. Thursday's not perfect, but you're still in. Miss once, return once. That's repeat. Not mindless repetition, but the deliberate choice to stay in the game. That's how the outcome becomes stable. That's the loop. And if you want to get good at this, at keeping promises to yourself when it actually matters, hit subscribe. Next week, we're going deep on meeting discomfort as a trainable skill. So you've seen how the loop works in practice, but to really understand why self-authorship succeeds where the other 4 strategies break down, let's put it through the same 5-question test from the last episode. What does self-authorship ask you to believe? It asks you to believe that follow-through isn't something you either have or you don't. It's a capability you can train. What does it rely on? It relies on keeping pull, push, and bridge aligned in real time, instead of leaning on just one lever. What does it produce? In the moment, it produces continuity. You don't collapse when it gets hard. You pick it up and you keep going. Over time, it changes how you relate to yourself. More self-trust, less self-judgment, and earned pride. The quiet confidence that comes from doing what you said you'd do, especially when it's uncomfortable. And it compounds. Your capability grows, your outcomes stabilize, and more of what matters to you actually comes into your life. Where does it break? It breaks when you stop staring and slip back into the familiar pattern. Comfort, habit, autopilot. In IDOJO language, that's the default path. You treat discomfort like a stop sign. You get pulled off course by momentum or other people's expectations. And you turn a wobble into a story about you instead of a moment to pick the promise back up. What does it tell you to do after a miss? Pick the promise back up. Don't turn one miss into a slide. Take the next rep and keep going. That's self-authorship, the capability to keep choosing what matters and turning it into lived reality, even when it's uncomfortable. You might be thinking, that sounds like work. Why not just push through or restart Monday? Here's why this is worth learning. When it gets uncomfortable, this isn't evidence the resolution was too big for you. It's just your current edge showing up. It's the same logic as the gym. The strain isn't the problem. It's the signal that adaptation is taking place. And every time you meet that edge and take the rep anyway, practice pays twice. You build capability and you produce the outcome. And the best part is, this transfers. Whenever you practice meeting resistance without collapsing, the same follow-through capability shows up everywhere. Train it here and you start noticing it there. You're calmer in the hard conversation. You follow through on the email you've been avoiding. You make the healthier choice when you're tired, because it's the same capability underneath. All right, last thing. Most resolutions don't fail because you didn't care. They fail at the first real push moment, when it gets uncomfortable and you start negotiating with yourself. When that moment shows up, don't treat it like a verdict. Treat it like your current edge. That's where capability gets built. So if the plan breaks this week, don't throw the promise out. Re-aim, meet the discomfort, adjust the plan, take the rep. And next week I'm going to go deep in on that second step, meet discomfort, because it's not brute force. Capability is a skill and a muscle, and we're going to look at the skills and how to build the muscle. If you want that, subscribe so you don't miss it. This is Training for a Better Week, weekly training for self-authorship, so your weeks actually go the way you mean.